Welcome back to the Yoga Chat. I'm your host, Montana.
I'm your host, May.
And today we have one of my oldest friends in the whole world. I'm so excited to have you, the one and only Cody Berkeley. Hi, Cody. How are you?
Hello, hello. I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Good to
Thanks for
see you and talk to you as always. May, great to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
So before we started recording, I was like, I don't want to talk about this until we start recording. And May's like, you don't want to talk about the fact that it's hot out till we start recording. And I was like, yeah, because I feel like when I listen to podcasts, they always start with like, ooh, it's finally summer in Pittsburgh. Is it finally summer in New York City and Connecticut?
We're sweating our balls
Yeah,
off here in Pittsburgh.
We are.
yeah.
Literally.
Today is a definite heat wave. I got some notifications on my phone about air conditioning usage for my building and my apartment, and just to be aware of it. So I think the heat is upon us, and we are sweaty people. So it feels like no matter what the climate is, we're always running hot.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. All right. Well, so now that we know how hot it is, everywhere in
And
the
that
U
our balls are sweating. We needed
yes,
to throw that in there.
because we all have those on this
Our
chat.
balls are drenched.
So for a little background, Cody and I grew up together, in the dance studio. And then, I mean, to make a long story short, like here we are. But really, if you're listening and you were a dancer at a dance studio growing up, you understand how close that brings you to a person, to another person, to a group of people. So Cody was like literally a brother, or still is. And yeah, we like, I feel like all of the big monumental moments that happened to a person in their life happened with me and Cody together. When I first knew Cody for many years, he was straight. So, and also he was smoking weed with my high school boyfriend at the time, actually middle school into high school boyfriend at the time. And I was so jealous of their friendship that I told on them for smoking weed.
Oh
Montana,
my God,
you
you
bitch.
are really going for it. You were going for it.
Like
But you know
we
what? These
had,
are all facts. These are
they
facts.
are,
It's a part of the story.
but like
It's a part of
monumental moments,
our
like
history.
yeah, we've been through a lot together.
Who did you tell on them
Trust
to?
me.
To my boyfriend's mom. Oh yeah.
Oh,
And then eventually the police.
Well, that part wasn't me. I didn't tell the police. The moms
You're
took
right.
it.
You're right. Anyway, it was all fine. And you know what? Like, it was one of those moments that I kind of needed to be checked as well, because I was basically finished with my high school career and was waiting. I took a year between before I went to go to college. So like in that year, you could guess maybe that there was a bit of boredom and maybe some self identity. Like, what am I doing with this year? Um, a little bit of that, and never really had a lot of hetero male friends because dance was so consuming, and it was a lot of girls all around me at all times. So there was a lot of like things, I think, from my point of view, if I think back to then, that contributed to that. But it definitely put a big wedge between Montana and I. And then because we are very much like people who kind of step out of our scenario after enough time, we can come together and be like able to forgive and all that stuff. So as corny as that sounds, like we needed to get through the weird to get back to the good. And then ever since, like, yes, I went to school and said what everybody already knew, that I was a very, very gay man. And getting out of Texas obviously helped that become way more obvious. And everyone was really supportive. No one was surprised, but they were patient with me, and no one ever forced anything out of me that I wasn't ready to share. Um, and I really like know the more I learn about other people's stories, like how lucky that is, and then geographically how different that can be for a Texan just down the street from me, from where I grew up. Like, could have been a totally different set of circumstances. So um, we she was there for me, and all of our friends that are still connected um, all celebrate me, and then I in turn celebrate them. And living in New York City makes it super safe. I feel like I'm in the right place for really for the first time of all the places I've lived. So, and I'm close to you, Tan and May. I'm not that far.
It's true.
Do you still smoke the devil's lettuce?
I don't actually. I don't. There's times where I kind of miss it just because I do think like it was really helpful for me. Like when I'm wound up really tight, I really do appreciate like just the chill that comes from it. But um, I don't feel like oftentimes that's what happens. I actually end up doing more damage by trying it, and then I get more in my head and uncomfortable
Uh-huh.
in my body. And I've found ways other I've like been really on top of other ways to get myself grounded again. So don't need it anymore, but it's certainly something that doesn't bother me if it's around me. I'm not at all
Mm,
like afraid. I just know it does not serve me anymore the way it used to.
gotcha.
Yeah. And then another
Yeah.
fun fact is after I told on Cody for smoking the weed, then I asked Cody years later, I was like, can I smoke weed with you? So I smoked weed for the first time
It's
with Cody. And while we were smoking, he was so like spiteful. He was just like, and he was like, this is fucking outrageous, right? And I was like, yeah, thanks. Love ya.
yeah, it was so like just so odd. But I'm like, I mean, if I'm not teaching you how to do this for the first time, I like I just said, I can hang. So yeah, we've moved
Go way
well past
back.
that, thank goodness.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't even planning on telling that little tidbit, but those are such great examples of like, if anyone listening, you can think back to like your childhood friend who you went through all of those things with, or your own versions of them. Um, that's my Cody. And like Cody said, and a bunch of other people in our group that we're still connected to and contact all the time. And when we're all home, we see each other or we make a point to visit each other in whatever city we're living in. And it's really cool that, like, it's a really cool thing to me to be able to look back in retrospect and be like, I had this huge family at this community, which was Next Step Dance. And whether I'm like connected to them on a daily basis or connected to them the way I am with Cody, or even like our friend Debbie A comes to mind. Like I don't see Debbie very often, but anytime I do, which has probably been like 5 years since I've seen her, it's always like no time has passed. And it's like any of those people in that family, in that community that we grew up immersed in, um, we could like meet up at any point and there's just like nothing but love, even though we're all on different paths. Debbie's a dentist now, so shout out Debbie A. Way to
And
make
speaking of Debbie, a shout out to you for sure. But I also, just before I move on, Tan, when you asked me to do this episode, you and May booked me for this. I have to, just before I forget,
Oh
give a
yeah.
shout out, which Mama Berkeley. It is her birthday today, 59 years old, young, 59 years young. Excuse my mouth, but she was unaware. She does not know that I'm filming this. So when it finally releases, it'll be special to know that this was recorded on her birthday. And thanks for making that happen. But Tan loved her. All of my friends growing up loved her and still do.
Mhm.
Love you, Mom. Miss you. But just had to say that before we
Hi,
transition
Wendy.
from
I'm glad you
shout
remember.
outs. Yeah.
Obviously, you remembered. Yeah, Wendy literally like gave me highlights in my kitchen and would like have me pull the foil out in the shower.
Yes. Hair extraordinaire. She was always doing that growing up. That was honestly just so cool to see her like have a side hustle like that. But yes,
Yeah.
Montana was in her chair a time or two.
Yep. And we still stay in contact on social media. I love Wendy Berkeley on the Instagram. So hi Wendy, happy birthday, even though
I
when
love,
it's be a few days after.
yes. Love you, Mom. Okay.
But your mom is
So
a Gemini. What is your sign?
I am a Taurus. So I am
okay.
May 18th. She is June 18th.
Okay.
There's a couple other people in our family who were born on the 18th as well. So kind of a family number. And then fun fact, I was born 1992. So I am 32 years old, but that year, 1992, May 17th was Mother's Day. And so I could have been born that day. I believe her due date was maybe that day, but I, of course, in Taurus fashion, wanted my own day and pushed her, I think, into pushed her labor a little bit further until I officially got my own day, so the 18th. But then again, like I said, the numerology of 18 in our family is quite significant. So yeah, I'm a Taurus. I'm a Sag moon, and then a Scorpio rising. Those
All
are my
Mm,
big
Scorpio
three.
rising.
they're all Scorpio rising.
Mm.
I don't think I knew you were Scorpio rising. I actually didn't know that. I know for sure I didn't know that.
To be honest with you, I didn't either. There was a time where I was like walking around telling myself a lie, and then I really went back and was like, let me just make absolute certain that that is the truth, and then I was off. Wasn't for long, but I corrected it. And now I know the three. So yeah, but I would say I behave most very much like a Taurus. I'm huge into luxury and like relaxing, and but also at the same time like kind of driven to a fault and like workhorse, and
Mhm.
cross me once, that's kind of it for you. But I'll give you a lot of patience and a lot of slack. But then once you mess with it, I'm kind of like, no, thank you, moving on. So quality friends over quantity. I don't need 100. I'd love to have like the strongest 10, that kind of stuff. So
Totally. Cool. So I know you kind of already told everyone a little bit of your background, at least the background that had me involved in it, but will you just paint a picture for us in regards to where you come from and what it is that brought you to where you are now, and what it is that you're doing now at this point in your life?
sure. Um, Kind of like compressing the part of the history from where we left off. I was really fortunate after high school to be sent to Philadelphia to University of the Arts for college. So I studied dance performance there, 2011 to 2015. Shortly after that, I moved to Los Angeles, and I was freelancing, doing different small projects, trying some commercial stuff. My college program was super postmodern European concert dance. So this was kind of getting back to my roots that I had with the commercial competition dance that we had growing up in Dallas, and moved to Los Angeles. And I stuck it there for about 2 years, and felt that it wasn't really where I needed to be. Made some cool things happen for myself, and I have some family that lives on the West Coast, but ultimately picked up and moved back home to Dallas. Texas being perfectly between West and East Coast, kind of centralized, is really a lucky thing. I'd like to believe that made it easy to transition back home to Dallas. And I was there for a year. I got back into concert dance and started getting really more heavily into teaching, choreographing, guest choreography, master classes, all those kinds of things around the Dallas area. And then in 2017, I picked up and moved to New York City. I had a lead for a job at a ballet school, and they needed a contemporary program teacher through the school year, but specifically, they were going to give me the 6-week summer intensive to kind of audition me with them and them with me to see if there was a fit. And it was a very rigorous 6 weeks, and especially moving to New York City for the first time, living there, adjusting to all of that was a lot, but I made it work and I landed that job. And then found myself in transitioning between that school, working at the same time with another ballet school, which is where I am now. Um, I've left the previous school, Ellison Ballet School, and I'm now at Greenwich Ballet Academy. And they held a lot of my time and attention. I adore these kids. We have a very full season, but I do still have a huge interest and requirement of myself to remain a freelance artist. So that has taken me around the US and many provinces in Canada. Now I'm super fortunate to say I've visited, I think, all but 2 or 3 of them, for choreography jobs, or like I said, teaching, or I'm working with a company called View Dance Challenge, who is a dance competition convention. And I've been doing a season with them for the last 4 years, a couple of times. So I would say what I'm up to is never one thing. And I would say it's also kind of nonstop. Everybody who knows me knows that that is certainly true. I'm very much moving at all times. I do like it that way. Of course, it has a few times where it needs to be balanced, but and I will wedge in there really quick, which has a great segue into the yoga chat. When I moved to New York City for the Ellison Ballet School job, I did also get a job to earn extra money and to fill my schedule at Lululemon Fifth Avenue, New York City. So I thrust myself into the culture of that company. I was already wearing their clothes, of course, growing up, but really understanding the basis of where the company came from and being afforded actually yoga classes, fitness classes, spin, anything I wanted, kickbox, like all of that was really, really a part of our, I would say, stipend built into our paycheck. So I actually dove into some yoga and tried a bunch of different things that I had not done with my body before. And that was a really cool thing. And I kept that going for about 2 years, just changing it up. But yeah, that's the situation that I'm in, and um, what I'm up to these days from where I left off before college.
Cool. We had one of our other guests, Dennis the dentist. He's the only other person we've had that is a former Lululemon employee, which is always really cool. Do you remember the studios that you would practice at in New York, what they were called?
Yeah, of course, Core Power. That was one that was a little bit more easily accessible to me. Again, just knowing how many boutique fitness studios and spaces are around Manhattan and Brooklyn. I also, where else did I take? There was, help me out. What are some other ones that are on that side?
I'm not good at New York City, but the only one I know, I don't know how new it is Y7. They like hip hop one.
That's there. I don't
Okay.
think I went into that one so much. Maybe it was just the core power classes, and there was some where you could yoga for the people is something
Oh,
that's there as
yes.
well. And they would give us basically a debit card, and it would
Mhm.
have the funds on it. Their only request at Lulu was that you didn't use that money for a recurring membership. So I could come into any sort of one of those classes and just really swipe the card. But Y7, that was one that is there that I don't think I made it to, but core power, like I said. Then I would kind of dabble into some SLT solid core, some more like Pilates type stuff. There's a Barry's boot camp. Like there's just all these different things, but I would say core power was where I took most of my classes. Even in LA too. My roommate at the time was a core power instructor, and we would do
Oh,
sculpt. She got me into a hot class, but I was not built for that. I was not built for hot yoga. I'm just way too pissed off by the second set of exercises, and just it messes with my focus. And then so I love restorative. Who doesn't? But
yeah.
um yeah, so those are the ones. But it was really cool to actually change up my fitness and my physicality from just teaching and then going to walk a sales floor to promote their products.
Yeah, I love that Lulu did that. I hope that they still do that. I assume that they do. Um, if you're open to talking about it, I forgot about this until you just mentioned it, but you went to the Peloton studios to train for solid core, right? And you can also say, "Shut up, Montana, I
Yeah.
don't fucking talk about it."
No, I absolutely did. I really, really, so my college roommate, I had a couple of them, but she is very much still a part of that community. She helped me by understanding how skilled I would be in that space. And I wanted something, of course, to have earn more money, but I really found that a lot of my friends and people that I was meet would ask, where do you teach in the city that
Mhm.
is a walk-in situation? Where can friends of mine come take my class? And that was something that I didn't realize, but it does make sense because I belong to a ballet school here, or a ballet school here. It is a closed community. It is you need to be enrolled. So friends of mine oftentimes wanted to come take my dance class, and I wasn't on a schedule anywhere like that.
Mhm.
So this wasn't a solution for the dance side of it, but it was a conversation that kind of started that ended up helping me realize solid core would be something great. um, Fitness is booming at this point in the city. It still is and everywhere, but long story short, I get in there. I start enrolled, or sorry, I start becoming a trainer and a fitness instructor in that way. The boot camp and the training was very, very intense, and I knew it would be. My body was going through it. Like I was truly just very like humbled at how, I guess, coordination wasn't a surprise to me that I was able to be like successful at, but like it was really just pushing me to such a place of that I wasn't prepared for. And by the end of it, we were almost, this is the part that makes me put my head in my hands, but we were almost done with training. And I just really just like had decided at the end of the day, if I get through this, like, am I going to be really excited to fill my classes and like show up for this in the way people need me to? There was like a formula to the way that you needed to teach the class. And I'm a creative that kind of loves to go in and improvise a bit more, whereas this was more rigid. And I realized that, but I hoped that I would get over that hurdle. And it really came down to that at the end. I just was not as comfortable. And I was like, this is going to be a detriment to people who are attending my class, even if I'm the most enthusiastic thing. It felt too robotic to me. No disrespect to any of the solid core peeps out there. You guys are incredible. But I was not connecting in the way that I needed to. And so I unfortunately walked away from it, which was the first time I've ever done anything like that, which is it's still hard to kind of think about like getting almost to the finish line of something and then bailing. But I, again, the more I think about it, I know why. And I still stand by that, the reason to do that, because it would have ended up maybe messier.
Yeah.
Having pushed myself to go there and then felt like really, really in a bad place with it. So yeah, that was a piece of it in the Peloton community and circuit. And it was I've since attended some classes that of friends of mine that have gone and or sorry that do coach, but yeah, oof, it was really like a very loud wake up call for me. Like this is not
How
what
is
you thought it would be,
Peloton?
and
Sorry, this just like popped. How's Peloton and Solid Core connected, or were they just hosting the
if
Solid Core training?
if I'm not mistaken, that at the time I believe like the Peloton offices, like for example, were near this one of the studios I was training in. Gosh, I'm gonna feel really really idiotic if this is not right, but I thought Peloton was like the umbrella and Solid Core was
Okay.
kind of a offshoot offshoot that
Okay.
maybe has since been funded enough and been able to make operate on its own. But um, I was under the impression at least that it was kind of the mothership and that Solid
Okay.
Core was able to have its like leg and then it can stand on its own maybe now. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I hope so.
And even if like you said, they were like using the Peloton space, it was like maybe they were
Mhm.
super connected business wise, or maybe they were
Right.
just, paying to be there. But I remember when Cody
Mhm.
first told me that, and I was like so many different thoughts. One, I think that it's very uh honorable of you to recognize that it wasn't a good fit. And I think that sometimes when you're in a situation like that, where like it's a corporate run business, or even like, like a dance job, and it's not like a relationship with a person that you're gonna like be friends with or have a relationship with, like sometimes just like walking away and ghosting the situation is not a bad thing. Like you said, maybe it would have turned out worse or differently, and not
Totally.
in such an easy way if you would have like made it a big thing. So I don't think that there's anything wrong at all with just like deciding to walk away from a training, because just like you said, when you went to Ellison Ballet School, it was an opportunity for both of you to see if it was a good fit. So same thing with Solid Core, like they were auditioning you as much as you were auditioning them. But when Cody told me that, I like had a new found respect for solid core teachers. And now when I go and take those classes, I'm like, you have to like really be on, like high alert
Yes, thank you.
for 55 minutes. And like that, my energy doesn't need that. Like I'm already up here. And so like
Mhm.
teaching yoga, while there can be structure to it and you're talking the whole time or talking a lot of the time, there's still like this sense of like grounding and honing in with this like laser focus. And I've never taught solid core, so who am I to say? This is just what I recognize, what I feel like I've noticed. Where solid core teachers, like it's like teaching a sculpt class every single class. Like I love teaching
Yep.
sculpt, but I teach one or two a week. It's very different than teaching yoga. It's very
Yes.
different. And
Not
I was
one
like,
minute can you like shut your brain off. Your brain is like
no.
100% every minute of that
And up
class.
here,
Mhm.
You're 100% on. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
like yoga, there's space. Like, I don't think I've ever had a solid core instructor, like, quote unquote, mess up. And if they did mess up, like, it would be really jarring, I feel like, you know? Be
Well,
like,
yeah,
what
because
Right.
you're in one of those
the
crossbody lunges with that stick. Montana and I went to
heck?
take a solid core class together, and we were like, we teach like 10 yoga classes a week. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna kill this. And like in the first 15 minutes, we're doing these crossbody lunges, and we're falling. And the lady comes over and she's like, "Do you guys want a stick?" And they just gave us like a little pole to hold on to. That whole experience was humbling. And I
Sure.
I
wanted to ask
know.
you, like, when you're going through the training, is it like physically demanding? Are you performing all of these things on the carriage or
Yes.
whatever? My body would die.
Yes.
I couldn't
So
do that more than twice a week and be okay.
yeah, the training program was, I'm gonna say like it's a little bit distant in timeline now, but it was definitely 4 or maybe 5 days. And the hours, some of that time was like with our book, like really understanding all the equipment, the names of all of the exercises, etc., coordination. And then, like I said, the formula of how you have to, in 14 we're doing this, you have to in 12 this, in 7, in 3, in 2, and 1.
Timing.
And the information that you have to craft around all of that is you are allowed to decide how that goes. But
Mhm.
Right.
you're right, like the actual endurance and the humbling piece of it is when we were doing the physical training part. You like, I'm next to people that are like buff as hell, and then there's like slender but very like, like coordinated me and all of this, and then there's like people who are, are somewhere in the middle. But it was, every single person was just a mess, like, and good, because we need to like learn all the wrong ways to do it first, and etc.
Right.
And I was, this is what I'm talking about. This is what made it, even going back to what Montana you just said, like it is 115%, not to mention like your music just needs to be in terms of like how, until we're doing cool down, like it needs to be just like so high energy. And you you'd be surprised to hear this, Montana, and I feel like if you saw like performances and just how I interact in life, May, like you've never seen me so afraid to be in front of a room of people than I was demonstrating in front of my other solid core instructors when we were all in the training program. I am not afraid to talk in front of a room of hundreds of people. I've never really struggled with that. I think the older and more teaching ability I've encountered and traveled and all this stuff, like it really, I enjoy it. Um, and I've learned to take my time and just not talk too fast, etc. This was like maybe a dozen of us in a room, and everybody was like rooting for me, and I just was like completely like the least confident thing that anyone would ever have seen out of me. And I was just like felt defeated, and then I would like make a little mistake in the structure, and then that would just like make me spiral in my head. And I was just like, you know what, I would like to just take a second, can I come back up in another couple of minutes and give this another try? Like, I was just caving in on myself, and I did not recognize that about me. I was like, this is maybe when that whole like, let's
Mhm.
say you master this, are you even in love with it? And that could go for anything, to be fair. But
Yeah.
because I was so like seasoned, and so I was so confident, and I know what I bring to the table, and I'm not going to be overly performative, even though that's a part of that has to happen. I still can be like charismatic and like a hard ass, and push you as a coach, and not let you get away with being lazy, but also still very warm and like make you want to come back, and not like, that guy's an asshole, I'm never taking his class again. So
Mhm.
it was like, it's a combination of, and but I was not connecting. I was like, this is so crazy to me, which is why I was like, stick it out a little longer. Like, you got 3 days left of this week, sleep on it over the weekend, which meant like massage every part of me that I could handle, just trying to like deal with the pain. And then I just decided it's gotta end. It's gotta end, because I'm taking a position away from somebody who could be
Yeah.
fucking awesome at it. Like, what if there is a person who wants to be on the roster of faculty more than me? Why would I hold that space? That's not fair. And then I have to trim something out in order for something new to come in. So
That seems
it
really
was,
mature,
love
like
path.
a
Yeah.
very mature decision.
I think that's an
Well,
indication that
thank
like
you.
you know yourself and you know what is in alignment and what's not in alignment. even if like you didn't admit that right off the bat, the fact that your body was like rejecting it, to the fact that then like your mind was like to not see Cody confident is like
Hmm.
something I can't imagine. I just can't.
Thank you. I'll take that because I'm with you. Like I don't, I had not, like I said, felt that way before. It was very, very alarming for me. But yeah, that was a piece of it. And yeah, I wanted to be able to respect it, for everyone involved. And I said, let's make space for something else. There's
Yeah,
going to be something else out there.
always.
So,
So I have a question
mhm.
kind of in a different direction, but we haven't had, which is, I'm so embarrassed to say this, but we haven't had a dancer on yet, have we, May?
I don't think we
I
have.
don't think we have. Sorry, all my friends. I'll reach
That's
out.
okay. I'm happy to be one of them, even if it's,
Um,
I don't, the
so
first is cool, but what's up?
yeah, you're our first professional dancer, or even like anyone that like danced enough like pre-professional enough to like understand the question that I'm gonna ask. And basically it's around like, so for me, growing up as a dancer, it was about like, how do I explain this? Like, how can I put my body in the most obscure positions, to be aesthetically pleasing, but at the same time still be move in a healthy way so that I can do this for
Mm.
the long haul. And then in yoga, I'm still relearning how to like move in a less aesthetically pleasing way, but in a more like intentional way in terms of like function rather than what it looks like. So basically, with all that being said, really what my question is like at this point in your life and in your dance career, like what do you do for your body to like stay feeling good and to stay healthy and to like not totally overdo it? Like are there other forms, other modalities of movement that you practice on a regular basis or like, ebb and flow to help kind of counter what dance can do to your body or does to your body?
Yes. I think first, before I go into like kind of the outside of the studio experience, things that I strive to do, I think the thing that has made me continue, that has allowed me to still function, without injury, and it's been important in both the Ellison Ballet School job and here at Greenwich Ballet Academy. I have to demonstrate.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be somebody who is able to show at least as full as I can, in my capabilities. I have to be able to do that because it's in my being, and it's a direct reflection of how I was raised to dance. But it's so hard to get the results that I need out of these young kids and these young dancers that want to learn true contemporary, and other improvisational techniques, etc. They're mostly, like, we know it from the way it sounds, they're classically trained first. So in order for them to feel decently comfortable, there has to be a huge piece of it where I'm 100% or more full in what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. And with that, it's definitely keeping me in shape, and it's definitely allowing me to maintain my voice choreographically, because there are rare times where I will ask them to do something that I physically cannot do, but I can talk my way through it, or I can use their skill set to know this is what we're looking for, this is what we want it to end up looking like or feeling like, and then it's more collaborative. And that again is going to take a certain age level and older. But I want to start by saying it's the demonstration requirement and the desire that I have to be able to, if I can't tell you, I'll show you, kind of thing. And it's made a huge difference in the success of these kids, because it's not just me in that way. A lot of our teachers here are still very, very, as much as they can be, hands on and show with their bodies. We sweat a lot, as much as the kids do sometimes. But that's the in studio practice stuff where I've noticed, like, that's how I can maintain my health. And I'm knowing that if the kid's walking away sore, or let me rephrase, if I'm sore, yes, I'm a great deal older than them. but I'm probably assuming that their bodies are feeling the same thing because we went at it together parallel. We went for the same effect, and I didn't just sit in a chair, point, and ask them to do it over and over until it was achieved.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think outside of the studio, I mean, this is silly in the way that I think it I didn't expect it to serve me, but um when the weather is decent, walking around and not um like being intentional with like long walks and like finding myself, and especially in this time of year, able to like go to the park and like just like in touching grass and just like letting myself like move around or like just stretch, but not because I'm in a classroom, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of almost like autopilot, or while I'm at home, just kind of rolling out like I did in college, just as I'm like chatting with a friend across the room in our dorm or in our apartment, just like really making this like background task happen. Um, are the like the easy ways to do so? I think my schedule has made it quite difficult these last 2 years to find time to do like a full massage or acupuncture. Typically, if I'm doing that, it really is out of necessity. I might have tweaked something, or I'm like having like a pinch here or there, and I will go obviously get some help in that way. But I think I'm able to self sustain just by like getting outside and like just a gentle walk, like but very very intentional, like long distance, so that the muscles that don't have to be whacking and kicking and turning and all of these things can still just get like their nice like fluid moving through my legs and my arms and all that stuff. And then I think I'm a pretty active person anyway, so like just the simple task of like lifting groceries from the grocery store to like inside my house and all of these things, like it kind of just continues to bring like I think a more of a muscular thing that is not achieved in studio, and then listening to my body if it hurts, asking myself where and how that happened, and then just like really just watching out for myself. I'm not out to prove anything to any of these kids. That's not where I'm coming from with being highly demonstrative. I am not trying to prove anything, and that's often what I tell them before they take the stage. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you have nothing to prove, you have only something to share. Like you're going to get in your own way before you even start. If you do not remember you have nothing to prove to anybody. But I also have to take that advice, and I have to
Yeah.
remember in studio, this is not for me to boast, look how good I am and you should aspire to be me. No, no, no. It's instead just I want to see what I want to see, so I'm going to have to be willing to show you, if that makes sense. I'm going to put a big
Yeah.
old period on that
No,
long
it
thought,
does.
but
There's so many overlaps. I feel like
I
one
was
thing
just
that's
thinking that.
yeah, one thing that's coming to mind is the like balance of the type of movements, right? So like we can call it dance, we can call it yoga, we can call it walking, picking up groceries, whatever. But what we can all agree that makes us feel best is the balance of different types of movement. So like the rigorous stuff in dance could be like compared to like a fucking balled out power class or sculpt class or like running, 6 miles, whatever,
mm-hmm.
balanced with like rolling around in the grass or restorative yoga or taking a long
Mm-hmm.
walk, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
meditation. So the
Yeah.
balance of like the extremes is I find to be like where I feel the most balanced. No shit. And then also
Mm-hmm.
like another overlap, and I know May's thinking the same thing because I just know,
The
is that
performative.
like, yeah, the performative stuff, and that like it's a reminder that like even when you're a performer, you have nothing to prove. So if performers have nothing to prove, then what the fuck do yoga teachers have to prove? Um, what am I trying to say? What the fuck do yoga teachers have to prove? Nothing. Like performers show up literally for to perform, for people to watch whatever it is that they're delivering.
Yep.
And that's not why we show up as yoga teachers. We show up to facilitate an experience for other people to experience whatever it is that shows up in their body. So like what's really coming to mind is like if a performer doesn't have anything to prove, then what the fuck does a yoga teacher have to prove? Literally nothing. And you said
Mm-hmm.
something else, Cody, that resonated, which was, I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen, but
Was it my mantra, like the towards the kids, nothing to
yes,
prove? Wait,
yes,
nothing
repeat
to
that.
prove, only something to share.
Yeah, nothing to prove,
Nothing
only
to prove,
something to
only
share.
something to share.
And if you get in your own way, then you're going to block yourself from being able to share whatever it is that you're here to share.
And then you are performing as a yoga teacher. You're just showing up for people to look at you. And you can tell the second you walk into one of those classes, a teacher that's there because they have something to share, and a teacher that's there because they have something to prove. And you
Mhm.
can feel the energy, and it's so palpable when you show up to a class with a teacher who's insecure and has something to prove, instead of just someone who shows up in the confidence of, I want to share this with you. And it's,
Take it
I'm
or leave it.
sure, I mean, I danced in third grade for one ballet recital, so I don't know what it's like in the dance world, but um, you know, yes, you can feel the difference
Mhm.
between the performative and the I want to share. And usually the people who want to share and it comes from their heart, that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. I think
Exactly.
like,
And I know that, like, on a side of, I was mentioning before, like, okay, I'm in studio a lot. I'm creating sometimes on people I've gotten to work with a while, sometimes on brand new people I'm walking into meeting the first time. And then this other side that I've been doing lately is, it was with all of the times that I take my students to competitions, granted more ballet competitions. I didn't really make that clear, different from how Montana and I grew up competing, and all different kinds of styles. This is more ballet, classical ballet, and contemporary. But when I tour and travel to Canada, I'm sitting as a judge, and going to bring it back to what you just said, which is the kids that are not proving anything and that are just sharing something. Not only are they probably just facility and like, and maybe just like gifted, but there is something so like obvious between audience, like dancer on stage, proscenium, audience in front of me, and then judge at the back of the room. There's something that every single person feels. And it's not to say, fact, this dancer is going to win first place. It's just like there is something that is so, okay, they're not proving anything to me. They're just sharing what they have, their gift, and they're just letting it rip. That I am inclined to want to see them succeed. And if it's like, comes down to taste a little bit, oh my gosh, I love what he or she just did. But either way, I'm like, what I'm going to award points to is that, because that is the part that you should be on stage for. And that is the part that people are showing up to watch you perform, because then everything else is just subjective. I can't say this is better than this because they are not equal. But this dancer, I want to see win in meaning like I'm going to celebrate their ability to recognize that is a skill, not to like be the best thing in the room on a technical basis because dance says so. It's just like so much
Because
more
it's
about like,
energy, it's a feeling that they gave you. You felt it. And so even
yeah,
though, a beautifully, a technically perfect performance could happen right after it, you might not feel it because it might not have been coming from that same place of, their heart, their soul. They were like sharing that gift with you. So, yeah, I think that you can do something technically perfect, but if there's no like soul behind it, no one's going to feel it. It's not going to land the same way.
right,
Um, so
right.
yes, there is that definite overlap and connection, and I know exactly what you mean, even though I've never stepped foot in a dance competition. If someone makes you feel something, it's not because it's perfect, it's because it's coming from a real place.
yeah,
Yeah.
so true. I can't not mention, like, I think of Stephanie Trayak, and Stephanie, if you're listening, or if anyone else is listening, I mean this in like literally the biggest compliment of a way. But Stephanie, of course, has amazing technique, but was never like oh, that person has the perfect technique, and then goes to dance with fucking Pina Bausch before she's 25. Because Stephanie
Mm-hmm.
Trayak was the epitome, or is still, excuse me, is still the epitome of like, that girl is supposed to be dancing. She's supposed to be performing, and she's going to show up, and she's in her movement is the most unique thing I've ever seen. No one dances like Stephanie, and that's her
Right,
superpower. She's
right, I
just
agree.
being herself. Like, she's just herself, and
And
she's like
that's what makes
charismatic.
her, like you know, that's the draw that allows her to have such world-class companies to join and move through. And then also, you know, just on camera, I think that even a different medium, which we don't have to get into, but just like she's done so many things because she's contagious to work with. Like you, is that exact thing we're talking about, you know, live in person, uh, through the camera, something, anything in between. She's like, you can't wait to work with her, and you can't wait to see what else is in there. And yeah, it's like we're lucky to know her. I recently just saw her in a show, and I was like, I am the luckiest to have known you from where you came from, and to now still see you and know you here. I don't know. It's really, we love you, Steph, but you are definitely a creature among
Preach,
us.
preach. And I think the word that, like what we keep describing, is just confidence, because a confident person knows this is what I have to deliver. And like you were saying, Cody, like you were alluding to, some people are going to be drawn to it. Other people might not be their taste, but they still can't deny that it's fucking good, you know? And
Exactly.
that shows up with yoga teachers too, right? Just like we always say, like, not everyone's going to love me as a yoga teacher. That would be impossible.
Sure.
Because then I wouldn't be being myself, right? So, but
Mhm.
like, I also have the confidence to say that, like, I'm going to do what I do, and people are going to like take it or leave it. And the moment that I try to be something that I'm not, it's obvious. It's just like in
Mhm.
anything else. So I think the word, like, that we are literally just describing is confidence. Um,
Yeah. Confidence,
humble.
and then honesty. Just honesty. You cannot be inauthentic if you're not going to be honest in front of who you're teaching. If you're not going to be, yeah, if you're not going to be like
Just say
able
yeah.
to just like, and it doesn't always have to be the same kind of honesty every day. The honesty is obviously able to shift. Like today
Yeah.
is going to be about like pushing through a really shitty, difficult time where it's pushing my endurance, or it's just, or mental capacity. You're like, I have so many things that I'm thinking about that I'm like, that's obviously why I'm showing up to yoga class, is like to center them or whatever. But like even just the total opposite. Today I'm like going to honestly like obsess over how lucky I am to move my body, because
Yeah.
I'm not so bothered in life. I'm feeling wonderful. I'm feeling like elated that I'm able to come here for this hour or however long, and then resume back to like not a life of stress, whatever, but like just the honesty and the authenticity versus being lied to and faking it and expecting everybody to obsess over you. Why am I not everyone's favorite? What are you talking about? That's really, I mean, I feel sorry for you, boo, but that's not it. So
We do this
what is
again.
this?
Louder. Yeah.
So
We're squeezing the juice.
we're not jerking anybody off. This is our fresh squeezed juice, um, also known as fresh cracked pepper. And then we had a gentleman on here a few weeks back who's like, "This doesn't look like your crack and pepper, honey." And so we just realized it could also be taken as an inappropriate thing. But hey, we're doing all of the things. It's a
We're
good
going to talk
thing.
about it every time now. I had another. All I was going to say is I just, movement is medicine in whatever aspect you decide to delve into it. That's just what I was thinking about, which is a perfect segue to lead us to our very last question, which I'm going to switch a little bit today. Normally, we ask everyone, do you think yoga can change the world? Yes or no? Because of our conversation today and everything that you know about the body and movement, I'm going to ask you, Cody, do you think movement can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
Oh, absolutely. Um, I think I'm gonna really obviously give you my honesty, and try not to go to such a corny place. Um,
We like
there
corn,
are
so you know.
there I love corn, but just a little bit on the side is enough. I think honestly, it's quite easy to say it, and then there's people who maybe don't really recognize, and I would, you know, encourage them to like listen a little bit deeper to their bodies. But like anything traumatic or anything ecstatic, like wonderful to awful, it's obvious that like those kinds of things are stored in the body. Um, whether it be something, again, like I said, in your past, your childhood, just yesterday, whatever. But if it's something that is felt physically, or just even like on a level that is like more mental. Um, I definitely am coming from that side of it first, like a little bit of like some troubling times, because when those things were going on in my life, dance had already been existing for me, but then it really became so crucial that I was able to use my body first and foremost to exert energy that I didn't know what else to do with. And then as I, grew into my own kind of pathway a bit more and grew up, and then there's like learning to come out, and what does that mean as a gay man, but feeling afraid. All of these things are living in the body. So the movement itself that dance afforded me definitely was healing me, was helping me navigate a really difficult time up until adolescence. And then you move to like the liberation side, where I go to college at 18, and I become my true authentic self, and still peel the onion back layer by layer. But then I was like really taking dance seriously and movement seriously, and understanding on a college level, an undergrad level, we're taking anatomy now. Now I'm really getting into the body. Like, what is all of this like cerebral stuff versus, muscles and all of these things. So then there's that aspect of it. And then now I'm on this like producing, creative, making kind of side, where I'm like working on how to craft a younger body and get them to understand at 12 how to express, or and not feel like they have to hide, and all these things. So like 100%, if not higher than that percentage, it can heal the world. And there's things around this globe that I think people think if you're dancing, you need to be in an institution that is super rigid, uh, or something like that, to feel like you can take yourself seriously enough. Well, we obviously know you can go out to a nightclub and dance freely, or you could do the same thing in a park and dance freely and just like wiggle your body around. And like, the more comfortable I think you get with that, hopefully, if you're tuning in the right way, you get some sort of release, or you get some sort of information back. It's either that was the hardest thing I've ever done, I'm now so sweaty, I'll admit later after my shower that I feel better after that, or in the middle of something kind of almost euphoric, by moving your body, you're able to see like, oh, I just got to like, it's like screaming into a pillow is the analogy. Like, the physical act of doing that is something's leaving you. So like, why should dance be any different? It doesn't have to be this syllabus that you have to have studied for 15 years to feel like that's the only way I'm going to be authentically allowed to release emotion. Well, again, that is such a shallow, narrow way of thinking about movement. But those people who are just, you see the I do 8 times a week, I see weirdos on the street just moving their bodies, probably because they don't really know what planet Earth is in that moment. But listen, they're feeling something. They're feeling something, and as long as they're not being dangerous to me or people around me, they're always an interesting watch. It's always like, I mean, my mom gave me the biggest gift ever, which was people watching. Her love for it translated to me, and there's so much information in that. But that is why I think dance absolutely, and movement of the body, can heal the world. And it's just because the things that are living inside of us need to go somewhere. Like, we can't be buried in the ground or leave this earth and not having let go of anything. I truly, like, how would we not implode? Or like, I don't know, like, only so much can fit inside of a person. So like, it has to go somewhere. And even how much I use my hands when I talk, like, I don't think even that's an accident. Like, we're always moving. It's all movement.
Yeah.
That's the
So
juice.
it's like the guy, I know you love this movie, Cody. It's like the guy in Soul who has the sign, and then he's like, he drives the ship in the dreamland. That's what I just thought of.
Yes, I just rewatched that. And then I also just rewatched Inside Out. And
Oh,
because I'm preparing to go see this, I'm preparing to go see the second one. But like, those Pixar films, like, it's so true. Like, there's just so many characters in there that you're just like, Pixar has to work on that animation anyway. So they have to make that movement organic, from
exactly.
literally nothing.
Yes. Yeah.
But they're probably studying some stuff that the actors are doing in the voiceovers. So yeah, it's a good example. Go see Soul if you have yet to see it.
Yeah.
Put it on, and then I'm dying to go see Inside Out too.
I didn't even know there was going to be a second one. So now I know what I'm doing tonight. I'm watching the first one.
You have to watch the first one. The new one's in theaters. Yeah,
Is it already in
love
theaters?
it. It just, like, I think a week ago. came out. And the new emotion in headquarters, the new emotion is anxiety. So that's the new girl who hits the scene, and her character, she's watch that trailer.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right. Well, everybody go watch Soul Inside Out 1, Inside Out 2, and check out Cody on the Instagram. Cody, where can the people
And
find you?
dance like a weirdo on the street.
Yeah, dance like a weirdo on the street or in your
Yeah,
Even
embrace.
if it looks weird, people are gonna be like, "Ooh, I can't stop watching."
Yeah, like if you're quirky, work it. You can find me on Instagram. I'm totally appropriating that from a friend. She says, "Work
That's
your
like my
quirks."
favorite. That's my favorite comment I've heard on the yoga chat. If you're quirky, quirk it. I love it.
So
I'm
you can
stealing.
find me on Instagram at Cody Berkeley Dance, all one word. I used to be on Facebook a bit more, but that's where kind of you can see like what's happening, and I'm just trying to always keep it fresh and keep it changing up, where I'm going and what I'm getting into, and of course learn some new stuff when I can too. But thanks so much, you guys. This was a blast.
This was a
Thank you.
blast. Thanks so much
Nice meeting you.
for spending time with us. Yeah. Next time you're in the Berg, I'll tell May. Actually, Cody comes to the Berg pretty frequently, like a few times a year with his dance studio. So
So
I'll
people
let you
watching.
know.
Yeah. And when
We
we
can
jump
go.
off of this, I can send you a specific date that I'm there next.
Yes. Yes.
I already
Please do.
got it, but I'm not going to let that be available to the World Wide Web.
Yeah,
So
no. Don't. We're way too famous and way too popular, and people will definitely follow us places. So
Our
shh.
moms will
yeah,
know. Our moms
Yeah.
will
yeah. I'm
follow.
like, y'all can't afford me, so you don't get to
Yeah.
know. I'm just kidding.
All right. Well, I love you guys. Thanks so much for your
Ditto.
time. Thank you. This is amazing per usual. And I'm so happy that we got you on. Thanks, Cody. Thanks for
Absolutely. Great
still
to meet
being
you,
my
May. And
friend.
thanks so. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you. Bye,
All
you
right,
guys.
friends. Peace.
Bye.